Hello and welcome to another edition of TMO.live, the Media Online's video series where we ask newsmakers the tough questions and explore the hot topics. I'm the site's multimedia journalist, Michael Bratt. A couple of weeks ago, we interviewed journalist Lorato Shabalala about her new book, and now it's time for another journalist to shed light into their memoir. Sam Cowen, author of From Whiskey to Water, joins me today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
So what was the aim of writing this book? What were you hoping to achieve?
Well, it was interesting. When I first started, people kept saying to me, how did you lose all the weight? Because I was 102 kilograms and I lost 40 kilos. And I thought, I can't tell people how I've lost the weight until I tell them why I gained the weight, which was by stopping drinking. But that was still a story I wasn't comfortable to tell because I have a family. I have 2 young kids, I have a husband. And then one day I was driving home and my 8-year-old, then 8-year-old, casually told her friend in the back of the car that her mommy used to drink a lot of wine. And that if I'd carried on drinking a lot of wine, her brother would have been born stupid. And the two of them laughed. And I thought, my daughter has a working knowledge of fetal alcohol syndrome. So when we got home, I kind of quizzed her on it. She was playing Minecraft on her iPad. She goes, I can't talk to you, I'm building a kitchen. And then I went to my son, I said, did you tell your sister? Because he knows a bit more about it. He was 12 at the time. And he said, I can't talk to you, I'm getting a dragon. And by the time I got to my husband, I realized they already knew. And I said to them, are you okay with me doing this book? And my son was quite circumspect. He said, well, are we in it? So I said, yes, you are. And he goes, and is it funny? And he went, yes. I said, yes, it is. And then my daughter said, but is it like a drama? So I said, yes, baby, it's a drama. And then she said to me, you can do it, but you must tell everyone I have long, beautiful hair and green eyes. So she has long, beautiful hair and green eyes.
So the main topics that are covered in the book, it covers so much more than this, but it's the alcoholism and the impact that it had on your life. What the turning point for you? Was it that moment in the car with your kids? Or was there another moment where you said, I have a problem and I need to get help for this?
Well, it's interesting because most people, and I spoke to friends of mine who were both in and out of group, they get to a point of no return, which is quite dramatic. So one person was caught having an affair. Somebody else got caught taking cocaine at work. But for me, 6 months before I actually stopped drinking, I remember looking in the bathroom mirror and everything hurt, every muscle, every fiber. And it was 4 in the morning and I had to be at work at 5. And I looked in the mirror and I thought, is every day for the rest of my life going to be like this? Where I'm going to wake up with a headache, where everything's going to hurt, where my tongue is going to be stuck to the roof of my mouth. And in that moment, a little part of me said, you have a problem. And I blanked it off. And for 6 months, I worked like a divorced couple. You know, if I drink this much, I can have Monday and Tuesday, and then not drink on Wednesday, and then Friday and Saturday. And it was like these 2 parents fighting over the kids, and neither of them getting what they wanted. And eventually, I decided I would stop drinking for the 2 weeks leading up to Christmas of the year that I stopped. And I couldn't do it. I made it 10 days in, and then had a full blowout with a group of friends. And I knew then that any chance that I could go back was gone. But even then, for the next 4 days, I just carried on. And then I got drunk at my parents'. And as I say, I didn't have an affair, I didn't crash my car, I didn't hurt a child. I got drunk at my parents'. And it kind of sums up the nerd that I always was, that was my rock bottom. But it was my rock bottom because I could no longer make excuses.
You talk about having to go to work. That's probably the most impressive thing. You never missed work, you were never late for work, you carried on as normal. But how did you manage to carry on?
The label, and I hate labels, is high-functioning alcoholic. So I lived by rules. And if I obeyed the rules, I couldn't have a drinking problem. So I went to work every single day. I had hangovers, had 3,000 men mining inside my head, but I never told a soul. And I was never drunk at work. I never drank at work. Even when there were office parties, I might have a glass of wine and then I would leave because I didn't want to be like those people. You know, those people who drink all day because they have a problem. I never drank at lunch. If you and I were to go out to lunch and you suggested a glass of wine, I'd have something to drink. But I wouldn't drink myself if I was by myself. And I never drank before 5 in the evening, right up until the last moment. Those were the rules. And I lived by them. And so long as I was within them, I felt like I had it under control. And if you have it under control, it's not a problem. And as they all got broken, that's when I realized.
What has the reception to your book been like, particularly from your family? Have your children read it?
They know a lot of the stories I've told them. There's nothing in the book that I'm not happy with them reading later on, because I also want them to know that this might happen to them. I think there is a genetic link, and I want them to know that if this kind of thing happens when they have their first drink, that's something they need to come and talk to me about. My husband was very understanding about it. He said, look, put it out there if you want to. I support it, and it's also been a long time. It's been 14 and a half years. So it's not as though it's just happened. My friends have been extremely supportive, even the ones who are in it. And everyone I did speak to who had been with me in any kind of form, where they themselves were an addict or an alcoholic, I've only used stories that people were fine with. And I have changed names and places and even genders sometimes, because I'm very respectful of the fact that those aren't my stories to tell unless someone else says so. And I think I've only had 1 or 2 negative responses, which has been phenomenal. Most people have been incredibly kind and incredibly understanding. And what's also been interesting is how many people I thought I knew, not close friends, but people I've worked with, who've got hold of me privately to say 180 days, 90 days, I've just come out of rehab. And I look at them and I think, it's like that C.S. Lewis quote, when friendship's born in the moment, where you look at someone and you say, you too. I thought I was the only one.
There's more to the book than alcoholism. Let's talk about your career in media. You are a well-known radio and television personality. Let's go back a bit. Your days on The Breakfast Show with Jeremy Mansfield.
Oh, that was a golden era.
What was that experience like?
I wasn't meant to get the job. I only found out on the Friday morning I was going in on the Monday morning, because the lady who was meant to go on with Jeremy resigned on the Thursday afternoon. So it was perfectly serendipitous. So I was with Jem from the first day to the last day. And it was the craziest show ever. And when we started at a time where crime was the big story, and every single news bulletin, every single show was about crime, crime, crime. And it was slowly but surely the psyche of the city was just descending. And we made a conscious decision that that's not what we were going to talk about. We weren't oblivious to it. It did happen, and it was in the news bulletins, but we were absolutely certain that when people woke up, they didn't want to know about that. They wanted to laugh over their cereal. They wanted their kids to be laughing in the back. They wanted to hear good music. And they wanted to get to work thinking, no matter what the day throws at me, I've had a good 2 hours, 3 hours in the car. And I think we did that. And it was amazing. I mean, we did the most bizarre things. And I honestly don't believe anybody but Jeremy Mansfield could get a group of thousands of people singing a fertility song to a gorilla at the Joburg Zoo. I don't believe Jeremy... I can't think of anyone who could be naked on a billboard that was 3 floors high and get away with it. It was such a crazy time. I look back on it now and I feel like that's someone else's story, but we lived it.
But now you're making new memories.
Yes.
What are you doing at present for those who don't know?
Well, I do Weekend Breakfast on 702 currently, and I'm also shooting a really exciting TV show. We're doing Married at First Sight, which is where couples get together having never seen each other to get married, but they've been put together by a panel of experts, relationship experts, anthropologists. So it's been a careful process, and it's been really interesting how many people have entered for it and how many people really want help. And when I first saw it, I thought, what a dreadful premise. And then I read more about it and I watched more about it and I got really excited. I feel quite like Pride and Prejudice, Mrs. Benedict about it, that true love can sometimes come from an arranged marriage, even if it's not your parents who've arranged it. So it's actually very exciting.
And before this interview, you said there's exciting developments.
There are exciting developments, and I promise you, you'll be the first person I drop a line to.
Absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for being here today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
I urge you, go out, buy the book. It should be a fascinating read. That was Sam Cowen. She's the author of From Whiskey to Water. Until next Wednesday, it's goodbye from me.